I'd be limited to 10 minutes each.
Without objection.
Mr. President, Washington is engaged in a debate right now over the kind of country we want to be. The specific issue is this. At some point over the next several weeks, the federal government will no longer be able to borrow the money it needs to cover the cost of promises it's already made. So the President wants Congress to raise the statutory debt limit set by Congress. He wants us to raise the limit on the national credit card. Now, what Republicans have said is that the only way we'll do it is if Democrats agree to change their ways, so we don't end up with the kind of situation that we're witnessing over in Greece. And make no mistake, that's exactly where we're headed, if we don't do something significant and do it now. Democrats so far have refused. Instead, they're making what can only be described as a bizarre request under the circumstances. In the middle of what we all agree is a debt crisis, they would like to spend even more. They want a second stimulus, more deficit spending. In the middle of a jobs crisis, they want to raise taxes that we know will kill even more jobs, when even the President has said that raising taxes would leave job creators with less ability to hire. These are their solutions. This is what the President came off the campaign trail to defend last Thursday. And this is what Republicans oppose. Our view is that the way you solve a debt crisis is to go on a diet, not a shopping spree. Our view is that the way to create jobs is to make it easier for businesses to hire, not harder. And frankly, we don't think the voters sent a wave of Republicans to Washington last November because they wanted us to raise taxes. They sent us here to restore some sanity. But the President and his Democratic allies in Congress don't seem to get it just yet. Right now, they're calling for a tax on aircraft manufacturers because they think it's good politics. It's their cheap attempt at trying to make anybody who opposes it look bad. What they forgot is that many of them voted to repeal a similar tax on the same industry during the Clinton administration because of the devastating effect it had on jobs. They made the same arguments then, that we need to raise taxes on luxury goods to get more money, and it backfired. The shipbuilding industry alone lost tens of thousands of jobs. Now, our Democratic colleagues surely must remember this. But apparently they'd rather have fun trying to caricature their political opponents than they would working out a bipartisan solution that would actually enable us to balance the books. Here's the point. Washington needs to find a way to spend less. Taxing more is their easy way out. They'll start with aircraft manufacturers. Then when that's enough, and it never is, it's some other industry, then another. And before you know it, you're going after absolutely everybody. Why? Because it's easier to find villains and excuses than it is to make tough choices. But most Americans know what it's like to make tough choices. And they want to know, if they have to do it, why can't Washington? That's why I invited the President over here last Thursday to talk with Republicans. My hope, as I made clear, was that he would listen to Republicans and hear firsthand why we think raising taxes in a weak economy is a bad idea and what the realities are over here. My goal, as I said on Thursday, was to get together and talk about what's actually possible. The Obama administration said it wasn't a conversation worth having. Republicans in Congress believe that finding a way to reduce the deficit and put Medicare on more secure footing is a conversation worth having. So today I'd like to re-extend the offer. I think the best way to solve this impasse is for the President to hear what needs to be done and how we can do it, hear what can actually pass here in Congress. He needs to understand the principles at stake here from our point of view. It's not about rich and poor. It's not about an election. It's about making Washington take the hit for a change. It's about having Washington make some tough choices for a change. Americans want to see accountability here in Washington. They've seen Democrats spending trillions of dollars we don't have. And they've seen the economic situation get worse in many respects than it was several years ago, and the facts speak for themselves. Since the President took the oath of office, nearly 2 million more people are unemployed. That's a 17% increase in the unemployment rate under President Obama. Gas prices have nearly doubled, up 86% since January of 2009. In the past 2 years, the federal debt has increased 35%. Debt per person has increased by over $11,000. Health insurance premiums for working families have shot up 19%. And while home values across the country have declined by 12%, they've clearly made the economy worse. Americans get this. They think Washington needs to either find a way to pay its bills or scale back its commitments, just like everybody in the country does. Americans have made enough sacrifices the past 2 years. It's time for Washington to learn to make some sacrifice of its own. So hopefully the President will agree that reducing the debt is indeed a conversation worth having. I think we can do it, but I think he needs to understand what the legislative realities are and why. And we're committed to a result that will restore the people's confidence, not only in our economy, but in our government. Mr. President, I yield the floor.
Majority Leader.